movie review. Jazzmans Blues, released last year. It's directed by Tyler Perry, who's also responsible for the writing. The cast: Josiah Boone plays Bayou, he's the lead character. Amara Van is Hattie Mae, his mother. Solia Pfeiffer plays Leanne, Bayou's romantic love interest. Austin Scott is Willie Earl. Ryan Eggold Era. Bayou's sister is Sitsi, Milana Jackson. And then Brent Antonelli plays John Clayton. He becomes the husband of Leanne. And Brad Benedict is Sheriff Jackson, a friend of Clayton's. And Cario Marcel is Jonathan Dupree. There are some other supporting actors, and they, of course, will appear on the slide. Okay, one critic described the movie as well received, but with a heavy-handed dark tale about forbidden love and living in the Jim Crow area. There's a tremendous score to this movie. Responsible for that is, and his name escapes me, Terence Blanchard. And it's basically about a young boy who has aspirations of being in the music industry, but his father has other ideas, and he is quite abusive to the young boy Bayou. He plays the trumpet, and his mother is also has a musical hobby. She's a great singer of gospel and soul, and a very caring mother. Bayou then meets, and we see this in an early scene. He meets the light-skinned Leanne, who's also from an abusive family, and in fact she has repeated rapes against her by her grandfather, and her mother is white. Her father and grandfather are black, but her skin color is light, and that gives you a flavor of what we're looking at. We're looking at the Jim Crow era in 1940 in Hopewell, Georgia, and we will be looking at interracial relationships of a sort, because we have African American Bayou, and Leanne, as I said, light-skinned. So she's a sort of 50% Negro. So to look at this particular movie, it opens, and we're in 1987 in Hopewell County in Georgia. The first few frames present to the viewer that this is a movie that definitely is political, highlights racism, the Jim Crow area in the Deep South, and we meet an elderly woman who in fact is Leanne, and she is walking through town with a stick. She forces her way into the congressman's office. He's very much a right-wing racist, and she dumps a pile of letters on his desk and basically tells him she's reporting a murder that took place in 1947, and she wants the congressman to take steps to basically look into the murder, and we don't know the details of this. We then switch back to 1937, and we then meet the two main characters as they begin their sort of flirtation with each other as teenagers. She is 15, he is 16, and it lays the groundwork for this type of movie. We then get our first taste of the music, an impromptu scene where the locals burst forth into song, and we get a taste of trumpet playing by Bayou's brother, and a first glint at his talents as a singer, and also his mother. And it's very impromptu in the street, basically very much illustrating the blues, jazz, gospel influence in this part of the world. And returning to the two main characters, we also see an early sort of difference of opinion, young teenagers getting fired up, and it then turns to laughter, and this is certainly indicative of the first shoots of a romance. So the two are disturbed as there is a sort of community event going on, and they quickly disappear from each other so that they don't throw any suspicion. And then we move forward, and the two start to meet in the early hours of the morning by a tree, which becomes symbolic of their love. They return just before dawn so that they aren't made aware, they don't make their families aware of their moonlighting. Leanne expresses the view that due to the social pressures of within the community, that it's unlikely, not possible, that they can be together. And of course, there's also the morality issue. Leanne is only 16 at the time. Bayou quickly it becomes evident that he's illiterate. Leanne, of course, well educated, and they come from a different social strata, and this again would be taboo. Bayou describes in narration, we need something we really need to do. We laughed, and that's sort of reflective, really, in the movie. So they meet daily, and the romance develops, and we see the first kiss, and Bayou starts to be more open about his strong feelings for Leanne, and they each find out about their others' families. We find on one occasion when Bayou returns home, his parents are in conflict, and his mother shows a knife to the father, who then decides to get the hell out and take his guitar to Chicago. Remember, he's also a trumpet player. And this rather breaks up the family, but they are resourceful. Bayou then tells Leanne that he loves her and he wants her with him, but obvious obstacles exist, and eventually he has to flee to Chicago, as their romance as such is found out, and he has to do that to escape possible violence, and of course the pain that he has regarding the fact that he and Leanne can't be together. Before he leaves, he witnesses a rape scene involving Leanne at her home. He goes there in an attempt to tell her that he's going to leave, and later they meet, and he states his love for her and suggests that they run away. But this isn't pulled through, and eventually Leanne is removed from the community and sent up north, and to basically seek a new life. The interracial relationship, the emotional scene when that she leaves in the car is quite dramatic, as Bayou screams through the window that he wants her to get out of the car. We then find Bayou joins the army, and we note a scene where he's in a bush, and it's divided into the coloured section and the white section. This is after the war is over, and he ends up back in Hopewell County, where his mother and sister are running a blues sort of joint with a lot of music, Hattie singing, and the place is really rocking. And Bayou quickly sort of feels at home here, and we then see a very strange scene, which certainly affected me. There's a scene where an African sort of drum sort of beat takes over the score, and this runs side by side with Leanne returning to the area, married and pregnant, and we see how she then flees to Hattie's home when she feels that the birth of the baby is due at any minute. And it's interesting, that sort of African tribal bit side by side with the arrival of a newborn baby. At this moment in time, we're unsure who is the father of this. One assumes that it's her husband. So Leanne returning to the area, Bayou returning as well. They meet again, and of course this rekindles their intense feelings for each other. Bayou starts singing at his mother's music joint, and we witness how Hattie has to pay tea money to the local sheriff, who's, as I say, a close friend of Leanne's racist husband. And the romance as such sort of develops, albeit again with secret meetings in the late at night. At this stage, rumour monger is considerable, and Leanne advises Bayou that it would be better to leave, as he could end up murdered because of the racial hatred by her husband and that element within the Hopewell County. We then shift to Chicago, where Bayou does go with his brother and the manager of the brother, and Bayou goes to an audition, a singing audition, passes with flying colours, and then we see his continued sort of success at the expense of his trumpet playing brother, and this generates a lot of conflict between them, as the brother feels that Bayou is now usurping his greater talent and nudging his brother out. and it's quite a poignant moment. His brother also starts to use heroin, and this becomes a big problem further down the line. And there's an incident where we see stand corrected at the beginning of the movie. The elderly Georgian woman is actually Hattie, the mother of Bayou, not, as I previously suggested, Leanne. I was looking at the time period, 40 years between the romance and now, and that would make Hattie possibly 80 years of age, which probably fits, it has to be said, it does fit. And so, as I say, Bayou and his brother, with the brother's manager, flees to Chicago, and there's an incident where the rumor about the two lovers becomes clearer, and the sheriff with his right-wing KKK type friends arrive at Hattie's place to look for Bayou. Unbeknown to them, he's left, and there's a threat to burn the house down, which is averted by the sheriff. So it gives you a little bit of a feeling. Then, as the three in the car are heading on the road up to Chicago, they take a stop, and Bayou's love for Leanne is so great he gets out of the car and threatens to go back, and then he listens to a story from the manager about the manager's experience in Nazi Germany. I think he was a Pole, and him and his family were sent to a concentration camp, and his family were murdered. And as Bayou listens to this, he appreciates the need to survive, a very powerful tool, as emphasized by the manager. As I say, we then move to the success of Bayou in the sort of review cabaret style, performing in the clubs in Chicago. As I mentioned earlier, the swing jazz era is particularly poignant at the time, and it reminded me of such greats as Duke Ellington, Count Basie, and a more up-to-date Joe Jackson, that style of jazz swing, which I absolutely love. As mentioned before, we then note Leanne going into labour and seeks out Hallie to deliver the child rather than turn to her own family, because she's worried that the child might appear to be coloured. So we get a further sort of message that perhaps this child might be Bayou's. And word gets to Bayou about his mother living in poverty, because the right-wing local enmities have been hitting hard on her establishment, because it's a black venue, and so she has to pay tea money, of course, and so she's now living in abject poverty. Bayou, in contrast, is making a decent living and wants to go back to help his mother. The manager says, no, you could be walking into a death trap, and eventually steps back as they agree to go for a day. There's a great scene where Hattie and Leanne are in the store. This is after Leanne's child is born, a son, and Hattie, of course, is destitute, has very little resources. Leanne offers to pay for her groceries, but Hattie leaves, not willing to steep down low, given the nature of the family that take care of Leanne. And this sums up really the notion of giving and being rejected. They do talk a little bit about Bayou and the son, but it's also too painful, and so Hattie gets away from the store, and very, very moving scene. Then we have the finale, really, where Bayou arrives in the Hopewell County again, determined to meet Leanne, which he does, and of course he wants to take her back, but he has to flee because a mob arrives and they seek him out, well, you can guess what happened. Alongside that, there's an extremely powerful scene that happened earlier in Chicago, when the manager, Bayou's brother, and Brian are in this scene where the brother's heroin addiction is becoming more and more overwhelming, and the two brothers end up fighting, lots of harsh words, and the brother gets fired by the management at the club because he can't perform as a trumpet player, and it's all rather indicative of how many sought refuge in heroin to ease the pain of being a black man in a very racist part of the United States. So we then reached the powerful finale back in the county, and the brother returns with Bayou, so he survives his heroin overdose, which at one point I thought wouldn't. And then the matter of what happens next. Well, I think you can probably gauge what takes place next. The tension increases, and threats against Bayou get louder. And although he does see his love, Leanne, and his son, he has very little time to enjoy that feeling. And I just wrote here at the end, victims of trauma adorn the final moments. It just about sums up what I think, on the face of it, is a topic that's been seen in a number of movies, but I actually like this one, although it's a little bit predictable at times and perhaps a little corny. I thought the characters are quite well developed, particularly Bayou's exceptional in his role. But I was expecting it to be a little bit more gritty, a little bit more nasty, but it was very polished and very well produced. To enhance my review, I'm going to read in full another review of this movie, which I think encapsulates the feel of this drama. A soulful and technically sound melodrama, well conceived, bit heavy-handed dark tale about forbidden love and living in the Jim Crow era. The filmmaker Tyler Perry, very much a project of his heart. He's also responsible for Nobody's Fool, which was a great movie with Paul Newman and Bruce Willis. 1987, an elderly Georgia winner, the elderly version of Hattie Mae, approaches a racist attorney in Hopewell, Georgia, about an unsolved murder in 1947 of an interracial girl, and hands him unopened letters left behind that she believes will clear up the murder. Interesting. I didn't realise that the murder was of Leanne. Then there's a flashback to the 1940. The abused Bayou by his trumpet playing father, and he also, of course, lives with his mother, Hattie May. They own a laundry service. Bayou is socially awkward but a sincere boy. He proposes to a biracial light-skinned Leanne, also from an abusive family, raped by a grandfather, whose obnoxious and headstrong mother sends her to live in the north to get away from her black lover. Bayou therefore enlists in the military. He's injured in the war. He returns home and finds that Leanne's returned home from Boston married to a white man, the son of a racist local politician, who thought he married a white woman. Bayou goes with his overbearing older brother, a jazz trumpet player called Willie Earl, to Chicago, gets to be a jazz singer, destined for a while playing clubs that cater to whites, while the performers are black. His resentful realises he's the talented one in the family, so in despair turns to heroin. And the star-studded lovers reunite again in their hometown when Leanne's back from Boston and pregnant, as the forbidden lovers plan on leaving town together. The blues music, arranged by Blanchard, creates a great jazz atmosphere, and the performance by Moo is ennobling.